think one of our favorite stories from that open qualifier, number 2, especially going through group stages and then finally into the playoffs is Ghost Gaming. And, we've obviously been lucky enough to have Kaplan on the show a couple times before. We want to bring him back on today as well, because I think it's been a great run. I mean, going 4-1 in those groups is I mean, feat considering who the fuck was in that actual group itself. So Kaplan obviously here is on an involuntary holiday at the moment, which is regrettable, but great to have you on the show, man. I'm looking forward to kind of casting a fond look back at your run so far, man. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Involuntary, chilling out in the sun, involuntary, little 3 p.m. beer,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
involuntary, resentfully watching Valorant games. It's great. Happy to be here.
What a terrible life. My God.
That's
Donate 10
Uh,
pounds per day to help Kaplan.
yeah. Fund his beer o'clock escapades,
that's
everybody.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, oh man.
we
It's sad.
talked about this like, multiple times when we looked ahead and looked at the structure of the season. We thought, holy fucking shit, there is like a lot of not much if teams are not able to. I mean, it's bad if you're not qualifying for groups, but for those teams that don't make masters, obviously, and are in position to sort of make LCQ, there's not a whole lot going. Like, fuck me, guys, we're just over halfway through the year, and yet for
Mhm.
many, the season is just over. Uh, I think
With a question mark of what's going to happen in 2023 with franchising.
right. I mean, that's a whole nother story. But you know, let's start here. I mean, it's less of a positive note, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on sort of this the structure of the Valorant season, and maybe now with a bit of hindsight, what could be changed to sort of maybe flesh out the rest of this year a little bit more for teams that don't make masters or that second LCQ.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see like I think when they first talked about the 2022 season, they talked about
Mhm.
having some like third party events
Mhm.
in the later fall kind of after champs and stuff. Holding out hope for that. There's like a Nerd Street 50K at the end of August, so stuff to look forward to.
Mhm.
Um no major complaints there. I mean, LCQ makes it kind of pace out too. It's unfortunate we didn't make it in LCQ, but for teams
Mhm.
that do, they have something to look forward to. I think that the one thing it was rough. The open qualifiers to main event was like, let's see, we qualified on Sunday and then we played XSET on Friday. That was probably like my one complaint about the schedule. It's just like,
The
oh,
turnaround.
congrats, you made main event, fly home. Like your match is in 4 days. By the way, that team's been playing on the fade patch, scrimming and stuff. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
pretty brutal.
Yeah. I mean, that feels like it's going to be the story for how Valorant's been going on for like the past 2 years, right? Because even now, there's no new agent, but the new map's coming out too. So I don't know if it's a potential that it's going to happen during Masters 2, but if not, like there's you're always gonna have to play catch up, unfortunately, with everything that's going on
Yeah.
with Valorant at this point. But you know what? You talked about potential events happening during the fall, kind of like an ignition series that they mentioned when they first announced that calendar. And it brings me to a question where you're mentioning even the NSG 50K, because the run of Ghost during stage 2, not a lot of people would think that Ghost would have made it to even qualify for groups, right? If we want to look back at that hindsight, I think one of the few people is me that you guys are going to qualify. Just because you guys have been playing a lot of what people usually define as the Mickey Mouse tournaments, right? The Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse, playing like the Renegades, playing like everybody else that's in that tier 2 scene, and maybe you're not going to get too much value out of it to be able to go into that run
I
in
mean,
the
yeah,
open bracket, right?
qualified by beating Complexity, NYFU, BBG, and Knights in that lower
Yeah,
bracket through that open
yeah.
qualifier. These are a lot of the
So
teams that you were really butting heads against a ton through a lot of those tournaments. Sorry, man, carry
yeah.
on.
No, exactly. Butting heads against, you guys have played against these teams most often than none, and then you get into groups, and then you face against Exit where they never get through the open qualifiers because they've gone through before. Was that like a surprise for you guys actually going into week 1 of the stage 2
You're talking about the
groups?
XSET matchup, right? In groups?
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. Because you played everybody else in the past in the Mickey Mouse tournaments. Then you get into Exit where you've never really played before until you got into that week of playoffs. Was it like of groups? Was it like a wake up call to be like, oh shit, this is actually a different league? Or is it just like minor things that could have been corrected to potentially even get that win against
Did it
Exit?
feel like a step up, I guess, in competition?
Exactly. Exactly.
it definitely felt like we were playing better teams, but it didn't feel harder because of that. Like I actually we scrim these teams a lot, right? And we'd been
Yeah,
scrimming
true.
teams like this a lot before. And like Valorant makes sense more when you play teams like this.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
more manageable. You know who you're gonna play and you can look forward to playing against them. There was less on the line, right? Especially like week one main event. Like, yeah, we made it. Like not a ton to worry about.
Hmm.
You're not you're not in the losers bracket of this qualifier that like decides your year and you're like 6 hours in and it's your
Mm.
second or third BO3 of the day. It was kind of relaxing. I just think it was tough to, like I said, we had been playing on the old patch, right? And the fade patch had
Yeah.
been out. Teams have been scrimming it, and we were coming off the back of a 3-week boot camp in Atlanta, and we had like just flown home. We got like a day off, and then we went right back into scrims. So we kind of felt like, oh man, like we gotta play some comps we don't actually love. We don't really want to
Hmm.
hold on to. Like we're just kind of jumping right in. I think it was kind of little stuff and feeling like we didn't really get to sort of
Yeah.
like
I mean,
prepare on the same way that some of these teams might have.
even just looking at this matchup versus Exit on this map, where John Cutie's playing Chamber, Koala was playing Jet, and then the week after, Fade comes in, and then Koala starts playing Chamber. I actually wanted to ask that question too for the preparations within the groups, because you and I had a conversation where, when I had the conversation with you about the team's performances, I was like, oh, there's a little bit of overextension of Koala Noob on a Chamber, Koala Noob on a Jet, or something like that. What were like the first things you guys had to fix to make sure that you had a very, very strong performance going into group
The loose
for the
ends,
stage
right?
two? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had to tighten up a lot on our discipline. Like the discipline we have in man advantage rounds is still not something I'm incredibly proud of, but like the players got way better at it. We kind of had to tighten up. Like and it was funny going into this, I was like, look, like we hit the W key too much. We're gonna have to like, and I even kind of said it to Quality, but I was like, you're an insane player, but like I was giving everybody like one thing to work on. I was like, you gotta kind of start to realize like you're gonna get punished for some of these peaks. Like you're against some better players. Like I want you to like be more careful about that.
Mm.
And like this isn't a criticism. Like I actually don't think we got much better at that. Like we disrespected people all the way through groups and like took way more fights than was probably appropriate, but like it was our
Yeah.
strength and we leaned into it. And I actually
Yeah.
am really impressed with how we did that. It's just like, how do we play that advantage round? Is I knew playing against like slow disciplined teams, they would let us make mistakes and like crawl back into rounds that they should have been losing and stuff. I was actually really relieved when I saw the groups because I felt like teams like Optic, Cloud9, like a bunch of CS players with a ton of experience, they're just gonna sit there patient, like holding their angles and just like wait for Ghost to like be over aggro and overextend. I
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of felt
Yeah.
like we had a more of like a Valorant player group. Like there was less teams that were just like swimming in like years and years of TAC
Yeah,
FPS
sure.
experience.
I get that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to rewind a little bit. You said moving into groups, it was tough. Coming home 4 days, that reset, and I know it really does suck whenever we get, and it's every 2 months, and sometimes it's month to month to month, right? If you get an agent, a map, and then an agent, those releases can really mess up the schedule. But I'm wondering then, um, getting the one game a week, getting it moving forward, being very positive feedback across the board from regions, from pretty much every region. What is your have you put thought into kind of what the ideal format for you from a player, from a team perspective? Like at least in my mind, it's like NFL, right? You've the year scheduled out. I know week 5 I'm playing this team. Week 20 I'm playing that team, and I need to win X amount to make it to playoffs. Vaguely is what would you like as the team?
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of like I think Valorant lends itself really well to like a league structure, to like weekly games.
Mhm.
I know people love tournament circuits. It's fun. They're
Mhm.
really enjoyable to watch. You get to fly around and play tournaments. I can't imagine it's probably incredibly fun to do that in Counter Strike. But
Oh.
like when you have a week between each game in Valorant, this is like such a biased answer, but it rewards to me the best parts about the game. Number one, you can get so into like trying to study opponents and like understand how
Mhm.
they play the game and their comps, which is like really just interesting and fun. But you also
Mhm.
have to adapt way more because of that. Like you can't just play the same comps. You actually have to experiment because you have to you're not just trying to find a new meta between like monthly tournaments. You have to like you have to show up with a new comp or find a new way to play your comp because
Mhm.
you just played that map and you want to play it again next week, and they're just going to tear apart your VODs. And
Yeah.
it forces people to be more creative with the agents. There's more
Mhm.
experimentation, and I definitely think like the weekly game structure, I
Vastly
felt it was a ton of fun.
it vastly increases coaching workload though as well. That's something that
Yeah,
I've,
no,
I've
totally.
noticed. When we have rapid meta shifts in a game, it's pretty fucking hectic when it comes to analysts and
I
sort of
mean,
scouting for comps.
I'll say this: when I was doing the open quals in EMEA, it was so fucking painful, man, because we would not know who we're playing until like an hour before the game, and we would play the first game, and then you got to figure out, okay, it's gonna be what. So while my guys are playing, I'm looking, okay, what are these two teams, and I'm trying to find out about the opponent we've got maybe in an hour out of two guys. We've got to figure out who it is. Then they roll up, and fucking half the roster's different. It's just like it was incredibly difficult back then to do any sort of groundwork until you got to day two, where you had that little bit of a break, or until you got to the main events and you could actually look at the teams. I agree 100%. I think like weekly seems to be the winning formula across the board right now, and we sort of had like a little trial of it, right? This is, to me, this is almost like a trial of the franchise. Do your little 5 weeks, see how it goes, and then think, what if we did it for 20? What if we did it for 30? Would it still work? The viewers still interested, and so on. And I think so far, at least, I don't know how things have been in NA, but it's been pretty good in EMEA. Pretty
Yeah.
consistent. The only thing that fucked us up was the major.
I'll I'll even bounce around back and forth on the questions too, as we're going through like the stage 2 for Ghosts, because we just talked about the format being really nice, that it's like a weekly thing we could fully prepare against a team. And now we get into you guys looking amazing after beating Exit and then beating the other 4 teams, which we'll have a chance to talk about. But then you get back into a playoff format where, okay, you guys have made it out of groups. Now you have a high seed, but you have to go back into a format where now you have to be good for potentially the next 2 weekends. So was that something that slowed you guys down in the momentum that you've built up from the past 5 weeks, going into like, oh shit, now we have to like hopefully be doing the less mistakes as possible because we won't have an opportunity to do any minute detail changes to completely anti-strategy?
Yeah, I think there's like no excuses to me for that first game against EG because like we had like, I mean, we only had 3 scrim days between our
Yeah.
match against Under Thieves and that, but like we still had some time to prep and adjust. I think the NRG game for sure, like you can't go sit there and watch how have they been playing and what
Mhm.
have they been doing, and we're coming off the back of a loss straight in the NRG game, and
Mhm.
I'm not complaining that we weren't in losers bracket, but like the one nice thing for the team waiting down in losers bracket is they're kind of vicious. Like they've just had a whole week to just prep and not show
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
anything, and
Yeah.
then they just get to watch, and they can honestly just prep for Ghosts and EG so that they
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
they're ready either way, and they can sit there and watch that game, and then like you have no idea what you're walking into as the team going down in there.
How does that
It's definitely
happen?
brutal.
Like it always blows my mind when we see a tournament format that just, because look at Masters, when you got the, or when not you, but like when a team got that week extra lead, uh there was, benefits and negatives to it. There were some teams there that were like, oh man, I wish we had that extra week to go and scrim, and there were other teams that were like, fuck, I want to be warmed up coming into this, which were the teams that had the extra week, so that was unlucky. But the thing that kind of like, again, looking at this system, how do we put something together that inherently has an advantage for the other team? You get to prac on a different patch. You get to chill out down there, get extra prac days. Like, just seems crazy that's the kind of reward an upper bracket should have, not the other
Yeah.
way around.
Yeah, I think I mean, like, I don't know how to get behind around the fact that if they want to do a bracket advantage, it's just going to be like that. And to be clear, I'm
Yeah.
definitely not saying it's like unfair. Like, I would way rather be the team who can afford to lose a game. Like,
Mhm.
Oh,
being the
okay,
team who
okay.
just you show up and
Yeah.
if you play and lose, that's it, you're gone. Like
Mhm.
that sucks. That's very scary.
Sure.
It was just
Yeah.
one small like thing that we had to adjust to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
From a guy that is always like, oh, I just like everybody to have a good game and everybody to have fun. I think there's like a good pro and con to it, right? Because you are part of like the upper bracket. You have an opportunity to lose and have a second chance. If you're at the 4th seat at the bracket, which is NRG at this point, you're already starting at the lower brackets. So if you've lost, you're fucking out. So to have that the couple of extra days to be like, oh shit, we still have some sort of a chance. If not, it's like let's put it all on the table. If we're able to beat this team, we have 3-4 days to prepare. Let's get it done, and we could do it, right? And that was the advantage of NRG being in the lower brackets. But if they lost, it was over, right? And actually, let's talk about that because I want to tie in Kaplan, how you guys have been unstoppable on Breeze for the whole season. We were getting to a point where I think you guys were 9-0 in stage 2 on Breeze, and you had to play against EG. Then you had to play against NRG. And not only that, I'm pretty sure you guys played NRG during the group stages too, where now you're going against NRG on the second time. They went back to like their old ways of putting Sam back on a jet, but unfortunately, you guys still fell short. So, well, what happened there into your development of Breeze from the beginning of the stage until the loss against NRG?
Yeah, Breeze is, first of all, I think Breeze is a pretty aim heavy map. I think it fits us very well. I think like my team has a lot of firepower, and that was a strength the whole time. So I think that's like a reason it's a good map for us.
Yeah.
There's certain comps we really like to match up against. I like to play comps that don't have a KO, so I felt good even this last time going in, seeing the sky. But I think, like, as a coach, it was definitely the biggest mistake I feel like I made, and the thing that I've been stuck thinking about for the last few days is picking Breeze against NRG. We were 15-0 before we played EG
Yeah,
with this
exactly.
roster on Breeze.
Yeah.
And then like EG has this very very annoying style to play against. It's like they have like 5 lurkers on this team. Like they just like all walk around and look for so many lurk plays, constantly flanking and reflanking in these post plants and stuff. And we lost, and we were like, wow, we hate playing against that. And we felt like Breeze was a good fit for that. And it's hard to like not tunnel on like, okay, we finally lost one Breeze game. We lost it because of how that team plays. And we knew we had some holes. I knew like for a long time, like we don't play for Brown Hall very much on defense. And I was trying to like get us to be more aware of that and find some ways to fix it, but it just didn't feel super comfortable. And it's hard because like I watched EG's VODs. They use Brown Hall a lot on attack on Breeze. And so I walk away from that game kind of being like, we didn't punish that and like we weren't aware of that. But if you zoom out and watch our game, you see you don't like regardless of what EG did in their previous matches, you see, oh, Ghost doesn't like play for that much and they're getting punished by that. And I think it was kind of I was a little too tunneled in thinking like we'll be aware of our issues and like adjust for NRG and we're like whatever 15-0, 15-1. It's still like
With
15-1 still a pretty good record, right? Let's pick Breeze.
Yeah.
I think in
Were the core
hindsight, like we
takeaways
lost it.
relevant? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm just
No,
curious.
no
Like
problem.
the takeaways from the EG game, did they apply against NRG, or was it sort of different weaknesses that you thought were maybe exploited, or do you think you like maybe, orbited too heavily around like the things that were your undoing in that EG game? I'm curious to know like how different was the experience between playing those maps against these two different opponents? Because let's be honest, that Breeze was your draw card and definitely your ticket to the bank, I think, in these playoffs.
Yeah. I think it was very different games, except again, like a hole we have on defense, EG happened to play in a way that kind of exploited it. And I didn't think through that NRG probably was well aware of that hole watching our game and watching us lose to it. So I think when we got around the defense, we didn't really like adjust to our problems. And they played like they knew how to beat Ghost Breeze and like they watched Ghost against EG and really had it figured out. And I think we fumbled there. I think like our attack half was fine. Like it was just kind of a bumpy start. And honestly, we weren't shooting like I watch my players every day. Like they weren't hitting the same kind of shots they used to and usually do. And maybe picking like a really kind of like aim map in Breeze. I don't know. I think we should have probably picked something else to shake it up. But I think the game could have gone either way. It's really hard to say.
Yeah. It still definitely looked like at least for looking at week 2, teams really wanted to try to avoid you guys playing on Haven after you guys just crushed the guard on that map too. And big shout out to Matthew as he's in the chat, MCE. So what's that development been like of theory crafting this fade with the Rays and Astra to see that there's such a strong combination of these agents with that breach on this map? Because again, we maybe pre-stage 2, a lot of people are calling everybody else crazy for not for giving up the Sova on the map. And look at Haven now, where you don't really need that Sova anymore now that you have, Fade, KO, and Breach.
Yeah, yeah. I think we were like, I think I was a little lucky to have a team that fit that Haven comp really well. Like
Yeah.
the way our comps start is thinking like, okay, if we can, I was excited to find any excuse to have Jet not be viable or necessary because like I think Koalnoob's like great on her, but he's also great on Chamber, and I think
Hmm.
Nismo's such an insane duelist. John can just play anything, so we were like, all right, what if? And like Nismo has an insane raise, so we start thinking, where do we want to try Fade? And John goes like, well, you can kind of play any initiator combo on Haven, so it's probably not like a really bold move to try to make her work on Haven. Like
Mm.
maybe that's a logic. Like it was a good logic for like that's a good map to try to innovate on.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, we need the breach. Okay, let's try a breach fade. And then we're sitting there going, all right, well, like Chamber is still kind of a must pick. Walnoob can play Chamber. And then we think, okay, Nisma has an insane raise. Wait a minute, this goes really well with the fade. And then a Proto's really comfy on Astra compared to the other smokes lately. We're already
Hmm.
running like nades and the C's and the stun. Like, why not throw Astra stars in there? And it just kind of
Get
like,
owned.
yeah, no, me and my analyst were just sitting there talking a couple nights before we tried the comp, like about these agents. And we're like, wait, this is, it's like we both typed those 5 agents like at the same time. And we were like, yep, we're doing that. And we got on like 4 hours before that Haven scrim day, the first scrim day. And we were like, let's get in the Val plant. Let's nerd out together. And then the team gets on and we're like, all right, boys, like we got it. Like this is going to work well. We felt really good about it.
Yeah, I mean, remember there's a fucking fault line from Breach on top of all that fucking sees gravity well nade too. Like, it was like
Yeah.
really, really nice. And actually, I wanted to take the time because we always talk about uh the Nismo. A Proto's already had a big name and a little bit of clout from the Proto Crosshair in his LG days. John Cutie has already stepped up to the plate after getting a little bit of criticism in the first place. But Brock is somebody that only started getting a little bit more limelight once you guys actually got into the playoffs. So talk me through about this player. Who's Brock and how is he a great addition to this team?
He's awesome. He's like he'll do anything that the team asks him to do. He's such a supportive player. His clutch gene is just like I don't know.
Insane.
I've seen this guy. I think he got some kind of 1v4 against EG like on Icebox or something in the
Hmm.
open qualifiers. And I remember him after he won it, everyone screaming. He's just like, dude, I don't know. Like he just like, I don't know how that happened. I don't know what to tell you. Like he just when he's in clutches, he just it's second nature to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a beast. I think if people watched our open qualifiers, points where we weren't on a hot streak, they would have seen like, holy shit, this guy's ability to kind of clutch and close out rounds is insane. It's just
Hmm.
we were running so hot for so many of these games recently that like if you're like the breach Sova like clutch dude and your team's just steamrolling, like you don't get
You
action.
don't
You
get
just
the
stand in the
limelight.
back and you're
Yeah.
like, all right, cool, good game, everybody. And so I think he was slept on a little just because like he doesn't get the first
The game
fights,
state doesn't let him shine to the same degree.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
it.
the unfortunate irony about him looking much better when you guys are having to dig yourself out of a hole. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly. Lucky to have him there to do that though, for sure.
And fault lines don't count to assists.
Unlucky. Can we? So let's be objective about this. I think because I know when we spoke to you at the start of this campaign, or at least after you guys qualified, we said, all right, like what's the goal here? And I think it's pretty, very expected and reasonable to say, hey, like we want to be a masters. But as you look back, and I'm sure you've done a bit of this intro and retrospection. Can we consider making it to playoffs and having such a sterling record in groups a success for this org, the players, and yourself? Like, is this something that you guys are satisfied with and gives you sort of a staging ground to build further? Like, what's the rough and raw feel from Kaplan about the entirety, the totality of the Ghost Gaming run?
Um I mean, I'm very proud of where we got. Like we were fumbling in open qualifiers. We could have not been in main event. We could have not done well. Like at any point you can not win and like I'm glad we won as much as we did. It's also really hard to celebrate wins in esports because
Hmm.
like
It's never
whenever
enough.
whenever you win, we win a match and then I'm like, all right, good job, guys. And, everyone goes off, has their dinner, whatever. And then I'm sitting
Bye for
there
the lab.
30 minutes later in TeamSpeak with my analyst, Gunter. And we're like, all right, let's think about the vetoes for next week. Like, what are the comps? Like, what are we feeling? What maps we need to scrim? And it's like, whenever you win, you're immediately focused on winning the next thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you lose, you're like, we should have done better. We could have done better. That
Just sitting
sucks.
it.
Like, I'm
Mhm.
convinced the only point where a win really feels good is when there was you like won the international tournament. Like every other win before that, it's straight to more work. It's just kind of the curse of esports.
There's like
Like,
4 teams out there that are like, I feel pretty happy, yeah.
yeah,
Everyone else
dude,
is like, I just
I mean
and I
like,
get that.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's yeah.
do you think that would improve if we had the weekly system? If we had a longer term, right? Less pressure, less like maybe less of a feeling that like, shit, okay, we need to win this next game. We got to get it done today. Or maybe you could take that day and go, let's celebrate, back to work tomorrow type thing.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. I think like having time between like main event and playoffs be a little longer, between open qualifier and main event be a little longer would feel nice. I
Mhm.
do feel like
Mhm.
I didn't get much time to celebrate getting into main event, and I didn't get much time to celebrate getting into playoffs because it was straight to work. And even then, it's like a
Mhm.
question of like, if you give me more days, am I really gonna celebrate with them,
Yeah.
or am I gonna choose
Yeah,
them to
yeah.
scrim more? Like,
I
I don't know.
think you know the answer to that one. I have a strong suspicion that your vacation would not be extended, but
Yeah.
What would
never
you have
know.
done? What would you have done differently if you could go back and do this whole run again?
Um,
Win. Sorry.
Not pick threes at the end.
Sure.
I don't know. I think maybe we should have slowed down a little at the very end. I do ask myself, were we a little burnt out to a point where like a 2-day weekend somewhere in there, or like one less scrim
Mhm.
day for EG, like maybe I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. Like, at what point does
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
constantly prepping new stuff versus like, are my players getting a little burnt out? And they haven't said that, but like I saw
Yeah.
us play and I saw us look a little tired. We pushed through it, but once it's your 12th win, like I don't know, you got to run out
Yeah.
of gas eventually. Maybe
Yeah.
we kind of needed to pause and go, we're happy with where we're at. Like, we've been the team that's grinding hard to like catch up and prove it. Maybe we should like go, okay, we're at a point where we can win some games in playoffs. Let's take
Yeah.
an extra day to rest.
Consolidate, maybe. God, that's hard to do though, without the
Yeah.
benefit of hindsight, though.
It's good life
Yeah.
advice, not just for gaming. Just take a moment to smell the roses. I think
Yeah.
that's sometimes you need to sit on the wall and do nothing.
I almost feel it's almost something that's similar to even the guard right now, right? Where they had like the fucking dream run, won the fucking stage 1, made it to fucking Iceland. Unfortunately, like and they were like boot camping for like 2 months nonstop in Texas to actually make it through, and then suddenly you get back into playing from home. There's there's a new patch coming out, the meta's changed, and it's like, oh fuck, well we don't have. I don't know if they were burnt out after that or not. I don't want to imply that as well, but there's been a lot of hours that's been put into that to actually make it to Iceland. That you're trying to repeat the same thing in stage 2. There's a lot of pressure going on where now you almost feel like you're leaving yourself aside. But I wanted to maybe even close the stage 2 run with you guys again. Bittersweet losing to NRG one more time on that second map on Icebox, and I wanted to know, was this a little bit into like the inexperience of the roster that you currently have? Because let's think about it. Let's face it. It's only been like what, 2 months that you guys have been together, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, and you get to a point where you're almost able to beat NRG on that second map to at least try to survive, right? Because think about it. Behind your mind, it was also very important to at least just win one playoff game to clinch LCQ because of everything that happened during the group. So did that get to you guys as well from like a mental state where it just shambled in the end when you fought against NRG on Icebox? Because you really only needed that one round to make it into that third map.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna say, like, to start, disclaimer, I'm not my players, and I'm not like speaking for things they've
Yeah,
said
for
on
sure,
it.
for sure.
And like, as a coach, I don't have to feel it, the nerves in
Yep.
the same way, I don't think. So it's kind of just guessing from me. I do think we had some bad days, like, and it does happen, but yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure when we're not just playing for like Copenhagen. Both of these series, we were playing for our LCQ spot. We're playing for 2 more months of our 2022 career. and we're playing for 2 more months and being an LCQ and being relevant in August, right
Mm-hmm.
when this is after the season, it's franchising, what orgs get in, like, job security is a question mark for everybody. Like, it's a lot on the line to be like, wow, if I lose this, I'm out in June and I don't know what happens in the fall and with next year of Valorant. And
Yeah.
if I win this game, I get to play in August and like keep showing improvement, and that's like right when franchising's happening. And so like no matter what happens, like if we do well in August, like it's good for all of us. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of, I don't know, like, I'm definitely, we lost fair and square, but, like, in terms of pressure, yeah, inexperience for sure, like, it was all of our first time kinda being at that level, and
Mm-hmm.
we were playing for 2 months of our year in both those
Yeah.
games.
Of course, of course, of course.
I mean,
And all the Sentinels fans, Just kidding.
Yeah, true.
obviously, this one we kind of touched on it earlier a little bit. That there's a 50K coming up. There's hopefully those third-party tournaments. But is there anything else on the horizon for Ghosts? Like, what's the next steps when you guys come back from vacation? Have you got anything lined up?
I think we're gonna take a, not sure how long here, couple of weeks, few weeks, something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
then just get right back to scrimming. Probably not 6-day weeks where I spend 12 hours a day at the PC. A little more chill than that, but
Mm.
Jesus.
we want to get scrimming these teams that are in LCQ and start that up, and then yeah, my hope is some of these teams, some of these people are saying like, "Ah, bummer, Ghosts aren't in LCQ." I hope some certain teams don't
Disband?
do so hot in LCQ, and then we can show up in this Nerd Street 50K and just shit on everybody and maybe reinforce the rhetoric of like, ah, too bad Ghost wasn't in that.
So
Yeah.
I have a little strap for you, right? You just go around to all the other teams, say like I've been scouting out, and like pick out some players that are like pivotal to a roster. Recommend one to each team, and then they'll buy them. Team will disband. You're in. You're welcome. I'll take 20% of winnings for that.
20?
Genius plan.
Just 20. Okay,
20.
that's
20.
pretty.
I'm a generous
Wow.
guy.
How
I'm
fucking,
a nice
how fucking
guy.
magnanimous of you, Mitch. Yeah. All right. Look, Kaplan, man, great to have you back. And I know it's it's definitely bittersweet because you're weighing obviously great achievements and great progress for the team with a little bit of uncertainty. I know I speak on all of our behalf where we say we definitely hope to see more of yourself and the team around and in the future. And hopefully you can enjoy the break a little bit, consolidate somewhat, and get ready for a renewed push later in the year, man. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I will enjoy it. It's always going to be bittersweet. Anyone who's at the
Yes.
pro level just wants to win so bad that you always could have done more, always could have won more, and you got to learn
Yeah.
to land on your feet. So we're working
One
on
of,
it.
one of these days, the 3 p.m. beer is going to be on me, mate. All right. Take care. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.
See you, Adam.